Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Reseller Show. My name's Andy Lawrence.
And I'm Luke Pastore.
And that's right. This evening, your eyes are not deceiving you. That's not Kev Blackburn. Kev is out of town at the moment, and we're lucky enough to have standing in for us the main man, Luke Pastore from the UK book flipper community. How's it going, Luke?
It's going really well, Andy. Thank you very much. And thanks for having me on today.
Absolute pleasure, mate. Absolute pleasure. Thanks for joining us and having a chat. So Luke has got a Facebook community called the UK Book Flipper Community. And what he does generally on Amazon is sell used books. So I thought, as Kev is out of town, he's at UPW. So that's the Tony Robbins event in London, Unleash the Power Within. So he's been there all weekend and just making his way back now, I think. And so, yeah, I'm interested to hear how that went. That should be a pretty exciting. And that's the one with the fire walking and all that sort of stuff. So it's pretty intense 3 days. But that's what Kev's doing anyway. And so Luke's kindly said he'd come on. And so I thought, as we've got you, Luke, it would be nice to have a chat about the used book subject and stuff. It's something close to my heart as well. I've sold a lot of used book over the years. It's one of the things I started with on Amazon when I started getting into Amazon is selling used books, and played around with it before we had the usefulness of the software to make our life a lot easier. But just for the people that don't know who you are, and could you manage to sort of like give us a bit of a synopsis about your route into Amazon and how you've ended up where you are today? That'd be handy.
Yeah, absolutely. So where do we start? It's been a long journey. So this started for me about 4 years ago or thereabouts, where I was working as a police officer in Manchester. I loved the job, but unfortunately I got quite a serious back injury, which basically ruined my career and put me out of the game. So I was looking at my kind of income dropping, and I've got 4 children, a wife and a house, the essential bills that need paying, and I needed to find an income. So I just stumbled across used books, essentially. I found Reezy Resells on YouTube, and I thought at first, no, I'm quite skeptical about this. I can't believe that he does, the volumes and the kind of numbers that he says in sales. Yeah. I thought he was a bit of a charlatan, if I'm honest. So, but I thought I'll try it. I'll give it a go. So we went and gave it a go, and it really worked really well. So we've flipped some books from kind of 20p, 50p into £10 or £35, £50, and I was hooked then. And then when I decided to resign from the police, when it looked like my back injury was just not going to improve, certainly not for years anyway. And we've turned up the volume, so we're kind of in a volume game now. So we don't really go for as high an average sale price as you would like as an individual seller, although we aim for it. But we get that much volume that we can afford to shave a little bit off the price to increase the volume.
That's interesting. Yeah, so that's a conscious choice to lower the price just to get a faster turnover, basically, so you can sell more volume.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things really. Firstly, when you scan, and say if you scan a profitable book and you think I could make maybe, I don't know, £10 out of this book, in a week's time you can scan that book again and say, well, I can make £10 out of this book, but I've got one in stock. So you pass on it, you pass up on it. And then the week after it happens again, then you soon realize, it doesn't take a genius. If I sold that book at say £6 or £7, I could do that every single week. Right. So it's just it's the economies of scale. So if you can up the amount that you sell, you can reduce the kind of average selling price and still do well with it. Yeah. And obviously, now that Amazon have kind of ruined everyone's life with the long-term storage fee, it means that we can avoid the potential for long-term storage as well. So it wins. It's not. You might not maybe make as much money up front, but further down the line, you will, you got the chance to save considerable money.
Yeah,
that way.
that's interesting. Yeah, I suppose as well, if you put into a few sort of scaling tactics and reprices and things like that, you can make your process a lot more streamlined. Whereas, when I was doing it, I was literally when I was doing it in anger and doing a reasonable amount, I was individually scanning every single book, making buying decisions on every single book, bringing them back, and then scanning each individual one in, pricing that book, deciding where I want to be, looking at the competition, doing that. And, obviously that's quite time consuming. You're probably going to be more spot on with the prices and probably get the very best out of each individual book, but you're spending a lot more time up front, aren't you, on the actual processing? So I guess where you're coming from is sort of like push it through a lot more. When you send them up, do you put like a generic price when you're putting them all in to get them up there, and then let the repricer do all the work? Is that generally what you try and do?
Yeah, so we send them all in and we price them all at like £100. It's like a default price that we set, and then we just let the repricer let rip when it gets in. Now, in terms of repricing, it's more of an art form than a science. And you have to test, and the market does change. Times of year, people pay more, people pay less. So we do the best that we can with the information that we've got available. But we decided to get a repricer because I had a problem with it. I was messing around in the early days. I had something like 2,000 or 3,000 inventory. And I was messing around with the inventory file loaders. You've got some experience of those?
Well, this is where you can. With them,
For anyone else that is listening, you can download all of your inventory from Amazon into like an Excel spreadsheet, and you can tinker with that spreadsheet and then re-upload it, so you can change prices that way. So this is essentially what repricers do. They run an algorithm, they create a file, and they upload it on your behalf. Anyway, I was tinkering with this file and I ended up bottoming out the price by accident and deleting all my old prices on, it was 3,200 books that we had. And I thought, how am I going to fix this? I had no data showing me what the old prices were. So I had to manually reprice the 3,200 books. And it took me about 3 or 4 days, 10, 12 hours a day. My eyes were falling out of my head, and I was going to throw the computer through the windscreen.
Oh, shit.
So then decided I'm never, ever doing this again, ever. Yeah. So from that moment on, we've just been repriced 100% of the way, because your time's more valuable than sitting in front of a computer for 10 hours, changing individual prices. When the reality is that when you change that price, a few seconds later, potentially, someone else has matched you, or the price has changed that day and you have to go back. It's a nightmare.
Yeah.
Once you get into volume, it's a nightmare to reprice manually.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. No, that's interesting. It's always something I enjoy learning more about, is sort of like the volume game between sort of high turnover and slow turnover, and high profits and high turnover, low profits. Always an interesting thing that I like to try and learn as much as I can about, because there's definite, in some sectors, like the volume game works in better in some ways, and other sectors it's all interesting how it works, and I like to experiment with different things. And so I'd still like to, at some point, if I have the time, get back into books and mess around with them a bit more, because I do enjoy the process. I love, it's almost as like a hobby, almost a day off for me. If the sun's shining, usually happens in the summer, if the sun's shining and I've got my shorts on and my t-shirt and I can justify and call it work, and I was like, right, I'm going to go out, drive to my local town and then go and do some scanning. I've probably got 5 other things I should be doing, but I think, no, it's all right, it's work. I'll go there and spend the morning going through the charity shops. Absolutely love it. Just scan a load of stuff. And I don't know what sort of, you probably don't quantify it like this, because I know you've got a different setup with your guys. Do you still go out to charity shops and manually scan, or is it more sort of going and picking up in bulk these days?
It's a combination of both. So pick up in bulk, but like you, when I have a spare minute, I'm there. Or if if Katie, my wife, if she wants to go shopping somewhere and I can get 10 minutes while she goes doing the shopping to run into the local shop and go through the shelves, I'd rather do that. Definitely.
It's great
the
fun.
thrill of the chase, the hunt.
It's like a treasure hunt. It is like finding gold. When you're scanning and you find a sort of £30 or £40 book that's a reasonable rank. It's still a real sort of buzz when you find that. I don't know about you, but
definitely.
Just before I forget, I better shout out the guys in the live chat this evening. Sam's in. Chris is also in from the Arbitrage Superstars. As always, he's a regular. Simon Hurrell, always the stalwart. Nice to see you this evening. And actually, Kev's made it into the live chat, so that's good to see you here, man. Thanks for supporting us. And as usual, if anyone has any questions for Luke, for myself, anything to do with reselling, shout us out in the live comments, and we will answer them for you on the actual show this evening. It's your opportunity to chat to Luke if you're interested in the used book game and anything to do with the tools and the software. Then he's your man. He's come on this evening for you guys, so it'd be good to ask him some questions. Colin is in as well, so good evening everyone in the chat that's joined us. But moving on from that, I just wanted to give everyone a shout out in the chat before I forgot. So I very much enjoy getting out and scanning, and I mean, you can literally, I don't know how many people realize the profit margin involved in books, but I could on a good day go out. I used to bring a suitcase. I know John Pastore is always the man for bringing his suitcase everywhere. It's a handy way of bringing the books around. So I used to have a big ass suitcase, and I could easily fill that up 2 times over, go back to my car, empty it, and then go back out again twice over on a good day. And literally, I think I had it counted up to £600 worth of potential in stock in like a long morning's work up until like 1 or 2 o'clock, and that's pretty good going. Do you pay attention anymore? Do you just grab a load and then just put it through?
I don't pay attention to that level anymore, Andy, but whenever a couple of times recently when I have gone out for a day doing the scanning, I think I mentioned when we had the OA summit, which was great, that I don't like it unless I've found 100 before I leave. But I couldn't carry 100 in a suitcase. That would be too heavy.
that is the trouble.
No, it's not me that uses suitcase. I think you said that. It was John Case, isn't it?
John Case. That's
John Suitcase.
John Suitcase.
John Suitcase and his boss.
He's the man that goes around on the bus with his suitcase.
Yeah, he's a demon.
Pretty impressive. He does some pretty good volume. It's an interesting story actually, because John came to one of my early FBA Academy events in London, and I sort of broke down the process of selling on Amazon, and he messed around with some OA and stuff and kept in touch, and he really liked the idea of books. So I said, well, if you want to understand about books, there's this guy in America called Reezy, and he had about 2,000, maybe 1,500, 2,000 followers on YouTube at the time. And I said, go and see Reezy because he's a good guy. I'm sure he'll help you out. And so he got in touch, and that's the rest is history, so to speak. He got probably the best guy to speak to about used books, and took him under his wing and helped him out. And then through him, you obviously met John as well, and vice versa. And so that's how all that side of things came together in the early days of that thing, and sort of hanging out, talking about books. So he's quit his job and now sells books full time, just like you. And it's a really interesting community. They're sort of the niche within a niche is quite a cool thing, and I still really enjoy the potentials for profits is just cool. I know it's not it's not the glory days that it used to be before Amazon messed around with things. But now this is a question actually, because now Amazon got to the point where they brought in the long-term storage fee, which used to be exempt if you have one item as stock. You used to not get the long-term storage fee. Then they brought in and then they got rid of that, and then they brought in the 6-month storage fee. So it's like they're screwing, tightening the screw so much. I think they went too far, and they probably realised they went too far, because not too long ago they did a big backpedal and got rid of it. I mean, do you think that's really impacted the sort of general prices of used books as a result of what they've been doing?
Yeah, I think that was probably the worst 6 months of my selling on Amazon so far. You can predict these things straight away. As soon as they tell you that after 6 months you're going to be hit with a fee per item, generally everybody panics. No one can pay those. Well, no one can pay. No one wants to pay those kind of fees. And when you're talking about volume, at the time I think we had 13,000 books in stock, and a significant amount of them don't sell in the first 6 months. And you're talking the bill being like $6,000, I think it's £5,500. You think, well, you can't, your average seller can't just absorb that kind of fee every 6 months. Now, the big boys, maybe they can. But even then, in terms of a business model, it's not a sensible business model anymore to be just giving Amazon, the best part of 10 grand a year or more. So I said, at the time, you'll see that the prices all across the board are just going to tank. Because people will panic sell, they'll have these panic fire sales, and that did happen. So we saw the average sale price go down by about £4, which is a lot. It's a lot, and we went from 90% or so of our inventory being priced where we wanted it at the top end. So most of our books were priced where we wanted them. Within a couple of months, 90% were at the lower end, and it wiped about 90 grand off the value of our stock, I think it was, when I worked it out, which is a significant number.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But obviously, Amazon, they've looked at this, and I would assume, if you were going to sell something for £15 and then it sells for, say, £7, Amazon also lose out, don't they? Because they lose their variable closing fees and everything else that goes with it. So they were probably hit quite hard in the pocket as well. And yes, thankfully, they've removed the 6 months exempt, the 6 month long-term fee, which it's not ideal, but at least we get 12 months to try and sell the product. Yeah.
Yeah, that's certainly better.
You just have to make the best of a bad situation as it occurs, don't you? And at least they've lifted that 6 month fee, and that's given a lot of breathing room. And we've seen the prices rebound back up as a result of that.
Yeah, I can see that over a longer period. I can see that definitely picking up again, because the thing is, once it got to 6 months, I think people were then going to start saying, right, I'm not going to send the same sort of things in. I'm not going to send as much stuff in because I don't want to risk it being around in 6 months. So their buying decision probably changed. And I wouldn't be surprised as a result of that, Amazon probably saw a big decrease in the amount of additional stock coming in. People are going to be less speculative, just going for the absolute certainties. And as a result of that, they probably, didn't achieve the opposite to what they were trying to do, which is obviously get more people to send more stuff and grow the platform. So I think they just realized they'd gone too far. They're squeezing everyone too much. And, as third-party sellers, we're now becoming, I don't know if you read Jeff Bezos's letter to the shareholders recently, but that was quite an interesting read. And, we are now becoming a bigger part of the Amazon marketplace as third-party sellers than Amazon are themselves. And he recognizes it, and probably has done for a long time, how important we are. Some people I see in the Facebook groups are a little bit down and say that they're just Amazon, they take in everything, and they'll wipe us out eventually, and they're going to take over, and we've done all the hard work and they're just going to take over. if anything, I could see it being the opposite. I think it suits them to back out of more things, because they don't want to be in the niches which are potentially long-term holds. They don't want to be tying up capital sitting on stuff that's going to take 6 to 8 months to 12 months to sell. They're going to be backing out of more items like that. Maybe they'll keep their top line, but I can easily see people, Amazon, backing out of more niches and letting the third-party sellers take over, because we are growing the platform for Amazon, and finding more ingenious ways, more stocks, and more ways of making money for Amazon, and we're making money for them. So why would they stop that? It's I think it's only going to grow. It's only going to grow bigger and stronger. And as third-party sellers, we're absolutely key. Amazon, I think, are now dependent on us. If they turned off the third-party sellers, they'd turn off a massive chunk of Amazon. It wouldn't work. It just would no longer work. So
yeah, I totally agree.
I don't think we've got to worry about that side of things. But at the same time, you can never trust Amazon to always do the right thing. Sometimes they get it wrong. We're sitting here scratching our heads sometimes thinking, why are they doing these things? Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? They'll send out a random email that looks like someone had put it together on their lunch break and then press send to the entire UK population. Think, who's running the show here? But at the same time, at most of the time, you think, okay, they're doing the right thing. They're kind of steering it in the right direction. So, I'm always optimistic when I think about the future. There's always so much further to go, so much more opportunity. I think we're good to go. And I honestly think it's going to take a little while, because these sort of things, when you're dealing with a massive industry or a massive category like books, things will not move very quickly. But I could easily see another 12 months the price is really recovering as a result of the 6-month fee going away and things settling back down again. I can see that. So I'm cautiously optimistic for the book category. What are your thoughts on what's going to happen in the future?
Yeah, I think the same, actually, Andy. I read something else quite interesting as well recently. It was on an American Facebook group, and it was a link to a spreadsheet. I can't remember which group it was on now, but it was one of the book groups. It was either Reezy Resells group, or it was what's it called? I can't remember what it's called. FBA Books, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, FBA book group, and it was a spreadsheet that basically it listed the top 50,000 sellers on Amazon. And I think there's 47 categories or thereabouts on Amazon. And the top 11% of the top sellers were book sellers, which is obviously, if you think of the numbers, it massively outweighs any other category in terms of the amount of money going through and being generated. Now, if you remember as well that Amazon was initially created literally for fulfilling books, and obviously it's grown into the beast that it is now. And Bezos apparently has always wanted to be an everything store, and initially it started with books, but they were basically a ginormous book catalogue initially. So the platform's geared towards books, the whole catalogue is geared towards books, and they clearly want you on the platform. So yeah, I don't think it's going anywhere, Andy, at all. Mm-hmm. I think the biggest sellers are book sellers. I think there's good things going to happen in the future for Amazon in terms of books, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think it's going anywhere anyway.
Yeah, just to put it into perspective, I don't know, we haven't talked about the profit margin. I said I'm always attracted by the profit margin. Let's just sort of make that into a reality. If anyone doesn't realize, maybe they're doing OA and they've heard people talk about it, you can walk into a charity shop, no deals, no negotiations out the back door. You can go walk into a charity shop and spend maybe £1.49, £1.99, and what could you see out of that? Quite regularly, you've got to be looking at I don't know, £12 to £18 on a regular basis. Would you say that's fair?
Yep, easy. Definitely.
That's crazy. From like a £1.50 investment. If you're doing OA and you're spending £9.99 and £12.99 and getting, potentially £4 or something like that, and you can go and spend £1.49 and bring back £15 and £20, and sometimes it's crazy. Sometimes it's £35, £50. What's the sort of, let's have a few good headlines from you just for fun. What's the lowest amount and the highest profit that you've done on some books?
So the lowest profit must be break even.
No, what I mean is what's the lowest you've paid on a book? Like, have you paid 25p and made like 150 quid or something?
We've been paid to take them.
Okay.
So that's good. So, but we get a lot free. We get a lot free. Wow. So you could say from zero, but I mean, it would be ridiculous, the ROI, if you're working out from zero. But generally, we're looking at 10p, and it's not a stretch. I mean, a lot of people go in these shops, and like you're saying, Andy, £1.50, £1.99. But if you keep looking around and you're tenacious, you'll find shops that will do 5 for £1, or 5 for 50p, or you can get 10p can be quite easily attainable. And I know maybe in London, some of the guys in London will be saying, they'll be scoffing now, saying there's no way you can get a book for less than £3.99.
Yeah.
But when we were down in Kensington in London, which is that the wealthiest part of London?
Yeah, it's getting on that way. Yeah, in that area.
So we nipped out and had a look at a few shops, and there were a couple of shops where they were still in the kind of 25p, 50p range for a book. So obviously, if you have a higher buy price, you just have to have a higher expected profit margin. So you can't be buying books for £1.99 and selling them for £7. It's just you'll still make maybe a little bit of money, but it's not worth the risk. If I was buying for like £1.50, £1.99, I'd be looking at £20 and upwards, and generally I wouldn't really be happy unless it was 30 and upwards on that kind of
price. That's really beefy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah.
So when you're going into the charity shops and you're scanning, do you particularly target the ones that you can still pick up books for 10p and 50p and stuff like that?
Well, where we are up in the north, in the cold north, the prices are generally lower anyway. If you stay away from the larger kind of market chain shops, I mean, you can say like Oxfam, who they have specialist bookshops anyway. They're quite heavy with the books.
Yeah.
And some of the other shops, I just think the chances, some of them.
Yeah.
And you just see the same stock on the shelves week after week. They're not shifting it. Yeah. They're asking more than anyone would pay. They're asking more than it costs online. I don't know where they get the pricing strategy from.
Yeah.
I think at the OA Summit, somebody went into an Oxfam shop and they had a book price for something like £69 in a charity shop, an Oxfam shop. Quite a niche book that no one's ever going to just come across in the charity shop.
Yeah.
But when they did some digging, the rank was like 6.5 million, and last time it sold for about £5. So they're obviously just looking at Amazon. I think they asked the person where they priced them, and they said they just took the cheapest price on Amazon. So they obviously don't understand that asking price isn't selling price. And yeah, I think a lot of them are just chances, but yeah, up here you can get them for fairly easily for 20p or less.
That's pretty good. Yeah. I mean, I must admit, where I'm from, there's some reasonably nice areas, and when I go out looking for books, there's a few sort of slightly less well kept shops that you might be able to find some 50p books for and stuff like that. Maybe a slight odor in the air, we might say, from some of the clothes. But a lot of them are the sort of like more well-known sort of shops, the Oxfams and things like that, and they are selling for big money. But what I've noticed is those shops do tend to get a better quality of book as well. Not always, but if you go into some of my local Oxfams, the prices are verging on taking the mickey a little bit. But you go into some of the non-fiction sections, and almost all of them are going to be worth money. And and that's your hit rate is much higher because of the type of donations they're getting, and they're all immaculate and unread and just really nice things.
Well, very good, all like new, aren't they?
Yeah. So sometimes I'll go in there, and if I can beat them up a little bit and say, look, I know that you've got to make some money, but I can clear out all your shelves, and I can go upstairs and go and do the same thing. Are you willing to work with me? And they're more than happy. They're like, oh, great, yeah. We've got more books than we can actually store. If you can take a bit, we'll just relax and we'll just go £1, £2. That's £2. That's £1. And we've done that several times. And I've said, right, I'm going to put all the books on the counter here, and we'll go through, and I'll say yes or no. And they've been more than happy to do that because it frees up so much room. They've liquidated all their books, and I've still been able to give them £100 or something like that, and so they're very happy. So in those situations you can make it work, but individually sometimes the default price might be $2.99 on all of them, in which case, as you say, it's you've got to be getting some reasonable money to make it work. But it is ultimately it's not what you buy it for. It's the buying making decision. The price is almost irrelevant if you can get the right money for it in the back end. So you've just got to do it. But in your case, obviously you're a volume game. You're making agreements with charity shops, I take it, and saying we'll take all of your books that you want to get rid of, and we'll just do a blanket price. Is that the kind of the deal that you're doing with them, and say we'll give you X amount for all of them? Or
yeah. I mean, it kind of is. But let me just go back a step, Andy, just to mention about there's an Oxfam that I go into, and although generally they are overpriced, if we go back to, you need to put your name out there, and you need to not be scared of telling people what you're doing, because at the end of the day, like you said, they want to shift that stock. They've priced it for a price, and they want to shift it. And like any kind of business transaction, if you can move more than one unit, the chances, you'll get a discount. So if you can move 50, they might give you a sizable discount. If you can move 100, you might get a very nice discount. Anyway, there's one particular Oxfam shop that I go into that the pricing is on the pricey side, but the stock, like you said, is fantastic. And they have tons of textbooks, tons of self-help niche books, real good value stock. So anyway, I spoke to the manager there, the lady, and generally Oxfam, they don't sell the waste books and stuff. They rotate them around the shops. They try and get as much money out of them as possible. They're a bit of a nightmare to deal with. But I kept kind of persisting with this lady, brought some cakes, donuts and stuff like that. And it ended up, she took my card, it's stuck on the back, and whenever they have a massive donation, she gives me a call and she'll give me a discount. Right. So, you buy 50 books and she'll give them you for half price, that kind of thing. Nice. So it's the importance of building these, longer term relationships with people instead of just going in and kind of hiding behind your phone. You need to get out and speak to people, and doors will open.
Yeah, I mean, they're not stupid at the end of the day. If you bring 50 books to the counter, they know that you're not going to.
You're not reading them all.
So it's much better to be honest with them and tell them what you're doing, as you say, and you never know, because it might be just what they're looking for. If you can say, oh, great, if you can keep doing this, then it'll be really handy. If you're providing a service for these, I would say 80 to 90% of the shops I've had experience with, they get far more books they can ever handle. It's probably the biggest problem in their shop is dealing with books. Everyone wants to get rid of them because they're heavy and bulky and they take up room. So everyone comes and donates them. And quite often their back rooms are really small. They've got boxes coming out of their ears and they can't sell them quick enough. So if someone can come in when they've got too much and they can make a call and say, yep, I'm going to give you money for them. It's not going to be like you're not going to get 2 pence per kilo or something stupid like some of the other liquidators. I'm going to give you a reasonable price and it gets them out of the way. Then you're providing a very useful service to them and still giving them some revenue. So you can definitely add value there. And you get a few deals like that, you're going to be in good nick, aren't you?
Yeah, you're right. So that's and another consideration as well is that most of the time the volunteers are in there. They're not bodybuilders. Most of the time they're older, frail people. In some cases, you're talking, armies of frail old women who struggle to lift these kind of 15 kilo books, 15 kilo boxes of books. And if you talk about some of the sacks that they have to fill are up to 30 kilos, it's just something that breaks my back. So never mind if I had probably, serious problems. And so that's another consideration. If you can, like you said, you need to find a way to solve the problem. If you can solve someone's problem, then you're going to make some coin on the back of it.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's good advice for a lot of different niches in terms of speaking to people and just taking yourself out of the situation. So how can I help that person? What is their problem? What's their issue? And how can I go about making their life easier? How can I solve the problem? How can I make it easier for them? And that's what I've done a lot of the time, is just sort of talking to them, being curious, asking questions, and then finding out if I can help them. And I've done that many times, and I've got access to charity distribution centers off the back of just having a conversation. And quite often the first person you speak to is like, no, we don't do anything like that. And so, okay, that's fine. Do you mind if we can just, it's like, well, it's my manager that deals with that. Okay, do you just mind just mentioning that, it's fine. And it's like, no, well, she won't, but okay, I'll ask them. We never do that. It's not what we do. But anyway, I'll pass on the message. And then the manager comes out and says, well, we don't really do that, but we have got quite a lot of books at the moment. So what is it that you want to do? And so, well, whatever, what's the problem? What's the situation? Well, there's insurance to think about as well. But we have got a lot of books, so what can you do? So then you just say, whatever you want, I can buy a lot of books if you've got a lot to get rid of. I'm not here to knock you down on price. I'm here to pay a fair price. But if you've got a lot of books, maybe we can do something. And they say, well, I'll have to have a word with my boss because I'm not sure if you can come in with the insurance. And then you get a call about a week later and they say, well, my boss said if you could spend some money and you can get rid of these books, then you're more than welcome to come in.
Yeah, that's generally the way it goes.
Yeah, all of a sudden then it all changes, and then they realize that you're not trying to get something for nothing. It's like, no, I'm gonna pay you 50p for all of these books. In fact, I think they came up with the number 50p. I had in my mind I'd pay up to £1 if I'm buying a lot, and they said, well, if you can do 50p a book, I said I'm more than happy to do 50p a book. And I probably, in that situation, I'm going to be buying a lot more than I would have normally bought as well, because if your buying price goes down, then your sort of your window where you would normally say, oh, I might pass that, when you say, I'm going to get that one because I'm not paying much and it probably will sell eventually anyway. And you've got a different approach. So, in those scenarios, I remember thinking, I'm going to spend as much money as I possibly can with these guys today to make sure they understand that it's worthwhile taking a punt and having me come in. And, so those deals are worth it, aren't they?
Absolutely. In terms of what you're saying there, it's something that is quite well laid out in a book. And if anyone hasn't read this book, then you should. It's called Influence by, I think it's Robert Cialdini. That'll be right.
Good one. I've not read that.
Oh, really? It's a good one. Let me just make sure that I'm giving you the no duff, Jen.
Yeah. Influence.
Yeah, by Robert Cialdini. His surname is spelled Cialdini. So it's Robert Cialdini. And he talks about how you can influence people. And something that I learned from that is the art of reciprocation, which, have you heard of that, Andy? The art of reciprocation,
yes,
the law of reciprocation. So essentially, if you go up to someone and say, can I go in your back room and scan through all, whatever it is, your books, your toys, jigsaws, or, look through the clothes, anything, like you said, they'll go, no, because it's it's a default position for people to say no.
Yeah. But
if you go in the week before, you lay a load of money down and show that, you're serious about buying. So we've used this technique a few times. So you buy a lot, people are going into these shops spending £2-3 here and there. And if you go in and drop £95 through the till, they think, oh my God, who's this person?
Yeah, exactly.
And then the next time you go in and you say, oh, I saw you last time you did me a really good deal. So I know you work really hard and you don't get recognition for it. So here's a tray of, I don't know, fairy cakes or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then the next time you go in, you ask them the question. So you say, look, would it be okay if I just have a look at the other stuff you've got?
Yeah.
and you've already given them two things. So they remember you for giving them a huge payday the first time. They remember you for giving you the fairy cakes or whatever it is, donuts or brews or Starbucks. They remember you for that.
Yeah.
And then their mind doesn't default to no, and they actually kind of feel obliged to say, to work with you and to say, So it's not, you're not conning anybody. You're just making it so the opportunity's there for you to be able to get in, because people might ask them regularly, and you get a lot of people coming in these kind of shops that they're not serious. They come in and you see them a few times and then they disappear, and they're just kind of chances, really. So if you can build a relationship with them, get on first name basis, and use this, law of reciprocation or art of reciprocation, it's a really good tool to use. You should use your ding ding for that one. That's really good.
I tell you what, that's more than a ding ding. If I had a higher than a ding ding, that would be it. Because in life in general, I think that's a fantastic one. So let me give you one of those for that golden nugget. That's definitely a huge one. What an awesome tip. And to be honest with you, I would agree. I've used that several times, and it's so important. It's so important to go in first, get to know people, and they're going to pay attention, as you say. As soon as you spend £100, they're going to pay attention. And the next time, I remember there's one charity shop I went into. It was a new one, and I'd only just found it by accident. I was going to another one and sort of walked past it and went, I didn't even realize this one. It was a lovely atmosphere. The guy created this amazing place. He had like a cafe at the back there, and the old folks that were going in there and literally spending the whole day picking up some books, reading books, chatting with each other. And he was really providing a service to the community. He had music on in the background. He had a really nice music taste as well that I liked. He's just a genuinely lovely guy managing the shop. Absolutely loved it. And so I was regularly going in there and saying hello, and he'd pay attention because he was coming to the counter and I was spending £100. He's like, oh, thank you so much. I said, you keep having books like this, I'm more than happy to spend the money, and just without being pushy, just leave it like that and come again. So, oh, hi, how you doing? And then one time he wasn't there. I said, I overheard his name, and I said, is John not here today? He said, it's his birthday. He's got the time off. So the next time I went in, he was there, and I said, I heard it was your birthday last week. He said, yeah. I said, well, I brought some biscuits for you and the guys anyway, just as a belated birthday present. And that sort of stuff goes a long way, doesn't it? And
definitely.
Then the relationship is like, we're on another level now. I'm not just coming in and buying books. I'm coming in, buying books and bringing biscuits. In the UK, that goes a long way. If you've got Dunkables, then you're on a whole new level. Someone buys me biscuits, there's pretty much nothing I won't do for them, to be honest with you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that's the whole cool thing. So then you're it's that barrier is down, because as you say, if you ask a question to someone who doesn't know you and you don't know them, there's just a barrier, and the barrier is always going to be no. If it's I don't know, it's going to be no. If it's I'm not sure, it's going to be no. That's always the way it is. And so I don't even ask the question at that stage until you're into that scenario. And then he's like, did you want a cup of tea? I said, I'd love a cup of tea, actually. Yeah. So then you get a cup of tea whilst you're going around, and then it's I've got some more out the back. Do you want to have a look at that? I said, I'd love to have a look at that. And then that's it, because then you can then buy even more, and then you're spending £150 at a time, and now there's ones that don't have prices on. He's like, I'll just put £1 on that. I'll just and then all of a sudden it's a different thing, because he wants to help you because you're helping him, and he's literally got piles of books. He can hardly walk in his office. He's got so many books, and he's telling me how much an issue, because you get so many people walking in with books on top of the stuff that you get sent anyway. Like, it's a nightmare. It's like, as long as I can effectively scan all this, I'm going to buy a lot of it anyway. And if you can help me out in the prices, I'm going to buy even more. And then you've got a relationship, and then it just goes on. And then from there, he's like, I'll speak to my area manager, because maybe you can get into some of the other shops, and then so if I would love to still have the time to develop those sort of relationships, because in that process I enjoy just doing really that. Good, and I miss making new acquaintances, and to be able to go around and sort of check in with those sort of people. And generally people give up their time for selfless causes tend to be nice people anyway. You know, you don't get that
Generally.
many a-holes that often. So
Only a few.
Yeah, just a few occasional ones, but yeah, it's a nice way of spending your time, and that's why I'm always harking back to it. My business brain is saying you've got other things you need to be doing. There's this, and this, but occasionally, especially in the summer when the weather's nice, I'm always just going to get back out and revisit some of those old haunts, because it's just a very nice way to spend a morning and get round, and you know, you're still making money, even if it's not the most efficient way in my business, and I've got other commitments I need to be doing. It's still making money, and I'm still really enjoying myself. So yeah, I love it. It's, you know, it's a fun part of my sort of history, and something I definitely like to find more time to do in the future. But yeah, definitely a great golden nugget about the relationships. If you are in that position, you want to build them, don't go headstrong. Take your time, because if you take your time, you'll get a much better scenario. It's the same with going to trade shows. It's the same situation. You need to get the conversation going first, and just be curious and ask questions first before you start. If you go in and say, what's your best price? Can you do me a discount? Can I sell it on Amazon? They're going to go, not much. No, see you later, you know. But if you start talking about stuff, talking about the stock, talking about the weather, talking about the football team, get to the point where you're two humans connecting and having a conversation, you're always going to have a much better result than if you just go straight into it. So, you know, that stood me in good stead for many years. And, you know, I always say relationships are a massive part of my business, and that remains so today. And my business is almost sort of developing and sort of maintaining relationships, and that's almost got to that level now where the reason why my business does all right is because you know, I've been able to take it to that little bit extra level by seeking out and developing those relationships. So yeah. Great. And I love that book, Shout. We'll put that in the show notes as well. Influenced by Robert Shout.
It's a really good book,
yeah, good one.
And the other thing to remember as well, a lot of the people that run these shops, like you said, they're doing it for selfless reasons. They're not, by and large, business people. So if you go in with a business proposition, they're not interested at all. But if you go in with a human element, then you know they can deal with that. Yeah. So
it's understand the pain, understand the pinch points, and understand what the problem is. And usually with the charity shop, it's usually too much volume, not enough space, too heavy, etc., etc. So if you can find those issues, and most people in the UK especially are quite happy to tell you about their problems and their complaints. So it doesn't take much to get chatting, and then they'll tell you what if they're talking about books, like, we've got far too many, yada yada yada, and then it's quite natural to develop onto from there anyway. But with us, we've been chatting along here, Luke, and we've got loads of comments here in the chat, and
I've seen there's loads.
It's
quite busy,
crazy down here, so we should probably address some of these just so we can catch up. It's gone absolutely crazy. So let's see who have we got in here. Dipty's in. Good evening. Sean's in, as always, the guy with the most energy in the world. I love Sean.
I know, isn't he just? He's like a bundle of I don't know what he's made out of, that boy. It's great.
I wish I could just harness it, plug him into the wall occasionally. Matt Webley's in the chat as well. He says, two of the best looking guys in the UK reseller market on screen at the same time.
What can you say?
You're not wrong. I'm not going to disagree with that one, Mr. Webley. Sam's got a question. What's Sam got to say? I'm about to send my first pallet to Amazon through my wholesale business. Get in, Sam. Yes.
Excellent.
Could you recommend a good carrier? And can you send pallets directly from the supplier to Amazon? Good question. So Sam took my wholesale domination course just a couple of months ago now, and he's absolutely smashing it. The other day he posted up he had a £500 day, and then the other day posted up he had a £1,000 day. So he's just killing it.
That's awesome. Well done. That's really good.
Yeah, it's making good progress. So he's getting onto pallets now. So generally, the pallet. I mean, you ship pallets with your book business, don't you? So the carriers will vary depending on where you are. In general, do you just use a local one yourself, Luke, or is there a national one that you recommend?
National pallets are a large one who will plug into Amazon. So I think last time I checked on their website, it was about a month ago, you could input the details, and as you book, you can input your FBA shipment details. So they'll want to know the FBA reference number, the one that starts FBA, whatever, FBA 35621QZ, that number. Then they'll want to know the carton count, so how many boxes, they're called cartons in the Amazon world. And then they want to know how many units and MSKUs you have. So they can be two different numbers, obviously.
Yeah.
With books, generally it's one, so they're always the same. But you can have, wholesale, you'll have different varying numbers, won't you, for MSKUs versus units. So they'll want to know those, and then they generally pick them up same day or next day. In terms of pallets.
National pallets, there you go. So that's a good tip.
National pallets is a good one, but if you look locally, you'll find that some of your local providers, we use a local one. Now, if you're anywhere near, the Northwest, I think St. Helens, maybe Bolton, up to maybe Preston, there's a place called Revolution Transport based in St. Helens. I'll give them a free plug because I've worked with them for a few years, and they're really good. They do, a decent rate. It's less than national pallets, only by whatever, £5 or £10 a pallet. But it's money in your pocket, and it's just it's not the commission that national pallets would have on the back of it. And what happens ultimately with that? All of these transport providers, they all link into the same networks anyway. So what happens is, say, Revolution will pick our pallet, and they'll take it to, I think it goes to National Pallets, maybe through the National Pallets network, and then National Pallets or Palletways will deliver to Amazon. But they take care of all of your booking in times, the Amazon transport portal, because it's a bit of if you're doing it yourself, it's a bit of a nightmare. You have to set up a kind of account in the Amazon. They've changed the name, haven't they, from CARP to the Amazon Transport Network portal or something. And it's a nightmare.
Yeah, it's quite confusing.
But if you can find a provider who will do Amazon and who will book it on your behalf, I would say it's worth the money just to do that.
I agree with
definitely. And what they'll do, you see, they'll consolidate everything onto one truck, and then they'll book a slot for the truck, and it will all be delivered quickly. But I think pallets are a fantastic way to go. I think they're overlooked in this country, so your stock goes in quicker, much quicker than small parcel delivery. Even over Christmas, we were sending pallets. They were being picked up, we're talking maybe, when was it? Maybe like 17th of December. Pallet will be picked up from us. 2 days later, it's delivered to Amazon. Midnight, it's checked in, and they're unboxed. And by the time we wake up the next morning, you've got 750 units live.
That's nice.
And there are guys, taking 3-4 weeks for an SPD delivery to be opened up even at the warehouse. So I would definitely recommend pallets. And if it's heavier goods, you're obviously going to get a huge cost saving. I don't know what the price works out as for kind of volumes for wholesale, Andy. I don't know if you've ever looked into it.
Yeah, it does. I mean, occasionally it does, but the lighter stuff, it's touch and go. It does depend on the size of the stuff. Sometimes I'll get some stuff that's oversized and awkward sizes, and then so I'll send pallets with those stuff. Sometimes it's borderline, and so it's just easier just to send them in smaller lots. But I have different strategies. So some stuff I'll get in and I'll hold for a little while, and then take them in smaller lots and send them. Other stuff, I'll get them in bigger lots and send them straight in. I'll just send them all to Amazon because I'll know they're going with a certain time. So it does change. But when I get the bigger, slightly heavier stuff, as you say, then straight away just stick them straight onto pallets and off they go. But yeah, obviously it's quite a simple calculation to see when you get your price for how many units you can get on a pallet, and then you can go from there. But definitely worth doing the calculation, because a lot of people, I think, when they get into their routine and they know this is how I do this is how I do this, they're probably a little bit they're not keen on they want to stick to what they know, basically. So there could be some people out there that are sending in some reasonable volume and could actually benefit from shipping pallets, as you say. So it's worth just doing that calculation. Certainly on weight, you're going to be winning there. So if you stuff regularly heavy, books are just ideal for it, because you can get quite a few in a box and quite a few in a pallet. So definitely worth doing.
Just make sure it's sociable, Sam, isn't it? Make sure that you are quite strict with following the guidelines. And I need to also mention that online, on the Amazon help pages, there's conflicting advice in relation to the weights of the pallets, and it's not accurate, depending on where you look. So 500 kilos is the maximum that they will take. If it's more than 500 kilos, they'll weigh it inbound, they'll reject your pallet, which will cost you a fortune to have shipped back to you and then shipped back in. So make sure it's under 500. Give some tolerance. We send about 25 boxes on a pallet. We give 1 kilogram tolerance on each box, so we know, we should be 25k underneath the kind of the maximum. A pallet weighs 18 to 20 kilos, so factor that in. Yeah. And then the other thing is use clear pallet wrap, because they'll reject them for that. I don't think there's any other real major things that they reject it for, but clear pallet wrap. Mm-hmm. And don't go higher than 1.5 meters. You've got to get those little points right first, and then you're okay. But you really don't want them getting returned, because the fees of returns will wipe out your profit on a pallet quite easily. So I think Amazon, if it's like overweight or anything like that, Amazon will actually fine the shipping company anyway for even trying to deliver it. I mean, the shipping company, I think they pay something like £20 a pallet to even deliver it to Amazon. Amazon just make money everywhere. But I think they fine them. They'll reject they can reject the whole truck. Mm. So imagine you have to then pay for a whole truck's worth of pallets to be redistributed. It's on your toes if you've sent something over 500k. Yeah. So be very careful with that. That's a real big, dangerous game to play. Don't be too close to those weight limits. Yeah, obviously you can weigh the boxes as they go on, so you don't have to try and find a massive weighing scales or anything like that. No. You can build them as you go, but that's definitely a very good. In fact, that's bordering on nugget territory. You're going to have another one of these, I think. Ding ding. Fantastic. That's great. Yeah, really good. If you're getting into pallets, then you need to know that stuff. Really good one. So what else we got? Okay. We'll watch the replay. Matt's got to head out. He's got something else to do, so he's going to watch the replay. This is going to be amazing. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for coming along. Always good to see you. He's just commented. Amazon are going to need resellers more than likely. Definitely. They like to admit and even realize, they do. They definitely need us, and that's not going to change for sure. So have I got? I'm just kind of skip through all these information so I can find it. Sean Matt's such a romantic. Sorry, was that? You're such a romantic, Matt. Yeah, that's a good one. Question: does Luke feel awkward when scanning books at car boots? The sellers are staring at me, thinking, "What am I doing?" Where's this one? Is this? That's towards the top, I think. One of the first questions. It's in got. Oh yeah, okay, from Sean. Yeah. Yeah. Because you can be quite self-conscious. Like if you go into a charity shop for the first time, or especially car boots, because you've got just people there selling their stuff, and you whip your phone out and you start looking up. You'll get some old lady saying, "What are you doing?" Or are you taking pictures of the books? Why are you taking pictures of the books? How do you respond to those sort of things? And it probably doesn't make you feel self-conscious anymore now, I imagine. You're used to it. No, to be honest, I got over that pretty quickly. Well, maybe that's just because I was absolutely hammering it, and I was asked maybe 5 times a day. But I was just telling people, look, I'm looking online at the prices to see if they're cheaper online, which is not a lie. And then sometimes the conversation goes to, in terms of books. Well, I've actually this happened at one of the car boots that I went to a couple of years ago. The guy said, "Oh, what are you doing? What are you doing there?" So I said, "I'm just scanning them, seeing if they're cheaper online." And he said, "Oh, I've only brought a few today, and there must have been 6 or 7 boxes on the floor. Really good stuff, military kind of niche things, art. I thought, oh, okay. So I said, why? What have you got? And he said, well, I'm moving house. I'm emigrating, and I'm clearing out. I've got like a library at home that's full of them. Anyway, long story short, from that conversation, I went to the guy's house that day, which is a bit weird, isn't it? Meet a guy at a car boot and end up going round to his house. A bit strange. But I ended up buying like 200 or 300 books off him, and they were all really good books. So no, that made me get over my fear of telling people very quickly. Now, the other thing that I would say, Sean, if you're using something like the Seller app, which I think you do, if you get yourself a Bluetooth barcode scanner, you can get them the tiny. I don't know if you can see on the screen, like this big. So I attach mine to the bottom of my phone with Velcro, and I scan that way. But obviously, you can remove it. You can have your scanner in one hand, and I can have earphones in and have my phone in my pocket, and it gives me the prices audibly. So they don't see a phone. You're not looking at a screen, and you can hold this thing in your hand, and no one even sees it. So if you're a bit of a magician, sleight of hand, if you can pick them up, move them around in a certain way, and you can scan them, and they wouldn't even know. Another thing that I would say is headphones. This is probably one of the major keys. Even if it's not plugged into anything, stick some headphones on, chuck the other end of it down your top even, and no one will try and speak to you. Nobody tries to speak to you.
Yeah.
So it avoids the awkward questions. Headphones.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stealth tactics. I love it.
Yeah.
I suppose if you're out a lot and you're regularly in shops and stuff, you need to get going and you don't really want to be interrupted too much. So yeah,
No,
getting the headphones
people tell you
in,
the whole story, like you've said. They just tell you everything, don't they, forever? So
get in the zone and roar through them. So some good tips there. Great.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay, what have we got here?
Okay, let's keep going through these questions, yeah?
Yeah, keep pushing through. Amazon can see where I'm buying the cheap products from when I put them in my SKU. Has to be in my SKU, so I remember where I get more.
The thing about the SKU, you need to remember that I don't think it happens for FBA products, does it? But if it's merchant fulfilled, your SKU will print out on the invoice. So if you write something like Argos half priced bought for $3.99, your customer's going to get it and think, I've just paid £40 for this, and they've clearly bought it for $4.99 in Argos or $3.99. So
yeah,
we used what I would do if I were you, Sean. A good thing to do anyway would be to record where you're going. Start inputting them on some kind of spreadsheet. Give each location like a supplier code. So even if it's just numerical 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can use that data later to say, well, I've sold so many units from source 1. It's obviously a good source, and I've never sold anything from source 4. It's obviously junk.
Right.
But that's what I would do. I'd change your source to a code instead of using the actual name to get around that. Definitely.
Yeah, that is a very good tip, actually. Yeah, really good. Yeah, don't be too obvious. And the thing is, you can really be stealthy in your SKUs, encoding your SKUs. You can put a few letters to signify a place without having to put the whole thing on. And if you look at it, most people would look and just see a bunch of numbers and a few letters, and you wouldn't see anything. So you can be a little bit more clever about that without being.
Or write it backwards.
Oh, there you go. That would really mess me up. I read things backwards at the best of times. So that could be an issue. Oh dear. Now Chris has said that Matt called him fit on one of his videos the other day. Matt is such a flirt. He really is.
I know. Yeah. He worries me a little bit.
It is a little bit. He enjoys himself far too much.
He's living the dream.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Webley, you're an insatiable flirt. What is he saying?
Yeah, Simon Hurrell said there, put it in a spreadsheet, Sean, as well, which I think is going to be the same.
Yeah.
The same thing, yeah. Yeah,
sorry, I've just read what Matt said. He said, it's not cheating if I lick Andy and Luke's face on the screen, is it?
Oh, dearie me.
Oh, dearie me. I love it. I thought he was going anyway. He said, "I've got to shoot off," and he's still talking
He's
about.
obviously enjoying himself too much, eh?
Love it, right? Love it. Very good. So Chris said, "I picked up 6 bread crates of books in November for free." Yeah, that's awesome. I think there's a big opportunity for picking up free books, isn't there? If you
huge,
sort out where
huge.
what's the best thing you would suggest? That sort of putting things up on Facebook, putting little pre-made ads up here and there. Is that the best thing to do? What would you suggest?
Yeah. Facebook's changed the algorithm recently, though. So if you write, say, Facebook Marketplace, if you put an advert on Facebook Marketplace that says, price £1, I am looking for whatever it is you're looking for, they will either never show the advert or will kind of take it offline, and it will just disappear into one of your folders that you'll never find again. Now, what we do at the moment, we put it within an image. So we'll create an image, and it'll say within the image what we're looking for, and then we'll just keep the advert very basic in terms of text. So it'll just say, books, and probably books again, and just have everything in the title, in the picture. Sorry.
Yeah.
And then just wait for the kind of inbox hits to come in, but they do come. Yeah, that's a good strategy.
Yeah, great.
I think Gumtree. Who bought Gumtree now? Did eBay? I think eBay bought Gumtree.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, so they've got a similar algorithm. So if you put kind of wanted or service posts, they will remove them and send you a nasty email. But you just have to try and play around with it. Notice boards at supermarkets are a good place, which is like we don't ever think of that now. But if you think of the generation, the kind of people that are downsizing and clearing books out,
absolutely,
it's kind of older people in the supermarket, and you do have these notice boards in every supermarket still.
Yeah,
and you do see people stood there reading them. So there's that, and other ones are church newsletters, which again no one really considers, but a lot of people, older people go to church, and for the same reasons they want to give rid of the books. Yeah, give them away.
Great ones. Yeah, still get news agent windows and things like that where people hover around. I'm like a moth to a light bulb with news agent windows. If I go into a news agent, I have to stand there and have to study the little postcard. They're usually for prams and cots and
barbecues.
But I just can't. I have to read every single one. But it's just the way it is. So yeah, great.
Even the prams though, they're underpriced, aren't they, on those?
yeah. People just trying to get rid of the stuff as usual, isn't it? It's just trying to free up some space and whatnot. So prams are expensive. I mean, I don't have any kids,
crazy
but
money.
They're crazy, aren't they? So there's probably a niche in flipping prams, I imagine, if you found them in the right places. Just people getting rid of them and they've used them for a little while, maybe redo the bearings or something, soup them up a little bit,
Yeah, they're kind of bomb-proof, aren't they? Really, they're bomb-proof.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like it. Alrighty, so Sam said he sold a book yesterday sold a 50p book yesterday for 44 quid. Boom. That's
nice.
what I'm talking about. That's great. Awesome work, Sam. Because when he first got started on FBA, he took my FBA Academy course to show him the basics of Amazon, and one of the things he took an interest in was used books as an entry point. So he did go out and start off doing the books before he got to wholesale, and there you go, they're still paying off. Because I have a feeling you probably haven't, Sam, gone back to books for a little while, and they're still paying out 44 quid from 50p investments, which is fantastic. And that's the other thing I really enjoy about books, is they can be almost semi-passive. Obviously you do have to keep feeding them, but if you're full time with it. But if you wanted to add in a certain element of passivity, books are selling potentially at different times to when toys are, or
absolutely,
when different products. And like, if there's someone like me that likes to travel, when I was regularly going and getting books, I could still go off and spend a few weeks here and there, and the books would still be going because they've been already sat there for the last 6 months or whatnot. So I like that part of it as well. I imagine, obviously, you want to try and keep building, but if you were to now go off for a month or 2 months, you'd still be making money on Amazon.
It'll make no difference. That's the thing. I'm quite confident we could go away for 1 or 2 months and have minimal impact. on what we sell. Absolutely
That's
minimal impact on what we sell, which is great. I mean, like you say, it's different to normal, you know, say toys or anything else that's influenced with Q4.
Yeah.
You know, it is a little bit cyclical, but generally it's steady through the year. You know, if you forget the textbooks, that's like our Q4, isn't it? But they generally sell a steady rate throughout the year, a bit more towards Christmas, but it's generally steady. So yeah, like you say, it's good. We sell some books. I think we saw one the other day that we sent in. I mean, I don't know why it didn't sell already, but we sent it in like February 2018. You think, but I've obviously kept that one because the value is there. It sold for the other day for like, I think it was about 45 quid, which was great because on the code it cost me nothing.
Yeah,
so
great. Yeah, that's a great one.
Sits there for a year, but yeah, £45. It would have cost me about, what's that going to be, about 12p in storage. So
exactly, it's worth it.
Happy days.
No, let it sit. If that was the beauty when there wasn't any long-term storage fees, because most books, unless they're absolute dogs, most books would eventually sell. So you just pile in, and that would always work. It almost took the guesswork out of it completely. Just things,
send anything.
Send anything. But that's why they had to introduce it, I think, because they were getting filled up with masses.
I think America was the problem, wasn't it? America was a huge problem for them.
Getting too much volume, so it's fair enough. You know, that storage space does cost, so that's fair enough. But Simon asked, Luke, are there any sort of books you need to avoid? Paperback fiction, for example. Do you still keep away mainly out of fiction, or have you got any sort of guidelines that you try and
mass media? If you're scanning books individually, it's probably not worth your time to go through mass media books because there's so many of them. I mean, even the name mass, they're produced in huge quantities. They're designed to be read a couple of times and fall apart or be destroyed. They're not durable. So
that's the fiction paperbacks generally you're talking about.
Yeah, this is kind of your smaller fiction paperbacks, or certainly granny novels. You know the kind I mean.
Mills
pictures of kind of ladies carrying baskets on the front, or child abuse victim type books, that kind of thing. There's just so many of them, and when you scan them, there'll be 250 sellers or 180 plus. It's just the competition is ridiculous, and people like the mega sellers, World of Books, etc. They get thousands of those, and they can just fulfill the orders for pennies. So I stay away from those. Yeah, well, that's not to say that I stay away from all fictions, because there is some money in fictions and some money in certain authors, especially if you see the sets, or you can put together sets from it. There's money in that, definitely. Especially the older. I'd say one of the things to look at for fiction is the older fictions, if they're in good condition.
Good one.
It's definitely ones without barcodes on the back, because the competition is low.
Yes, I was going to say a lot of people wouldn't bother with those. So that's interesting. Good one.
Yeah, so some fictions, or hardcover fiction might be worth. Horror is worth a go, but otherwise, don't bother.
Good to know. So yes, Sean goes on and basically says it's the same thing in reverse. What type of books does Luke recommend? So as a sweeping statement is generally, would you say non-fiction, hardback type of stuff?
The money is in generally books that teach people something. So textbooks are kind of your top of the range generally. Teaching academic students, because they're paying big money for the courses. And usually it's student loans, and I think it's abused a little bit by the publishers, and that they charge ridiculous prices because it's a captive market.
Because they can,
But then there are other books that teach people, about quilting. They can generally be good, that kind of thing. Sorry, mate.
Spinning and weaving, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Just anything that's technical and will teach people something. Is generally worth a look. Cookery books. I'm not going to say there isn't money in them, because there is in some, but there's so many cookery books that although there is money in them, I mean, I look through cookery books, but if you were trying to get the biggest bang for your buck, I would probably steer clear of them.
They're still quite mass produced, aren't they? That's the thing.
Yeah, a lot of them are mass produced. Yeah, with cookery books, the thing I do, I look for. I tend to find that the higher values are on the books that have covers that are very high quality. So whereas it might be a tactile cover, like with a kind of membrane feel to it, or it could be a cloth cover, that kind of thing. Anything that's just a higher quality than the run-of-the-mill paperback or hardback. Yeah, but there is good money in cookery books. I'm not taking away from the rest of them. If you put the time in to scan them, you'll find some real gems in cookery books. But there's just a lot of cookery books. Yeah,
a lot to get through,
and they're generally big and heavy. That's the other thing
are.
for fees, fulfillment fees.
Yeah, it's always something to think about. If you're getting down to where you're thinking, is that going to be enough? Am I gonna be wanting to make £3 or £4 on a book? If you get to that point where you're thinking that and it's relatively big, then that's usually what tips you over the edge, isn't it? If it's a bigger book, then it's like, it's not worth it. Yeah. What is your minimum? I mean, obviously your volume, so you'll probably go down to a low minimum in a lot of people, but what's your minimum profit margin you want to make from a book generally, regardless of cost?
Well, what we do, we buy them hoping to make minimum sales price of £10. Okay. But the reality is that in 6 months, there'll be 4 people on that listing. So we shoot for getting a tenner on each one, and then we gradually just go down and down and down. And we'll just keep going until we almost break even. I mean, we don't go that low so that we break even. I like to make it, 50p a pound on mine. But you'd be surprised how low you can go and still make that money. So if you've got the volume, like you mentioned, going through, you can still make income on these smaller amounts. Yeah. Absolutely. And if you look at someone like these mega sellers, they're making maybe 50p on each book, but they're selling, I don't know, 100,000 every 2 days. Yeah. It's a lot of money, it's 50p. It's a lot of money.
Yeah, it works for them. If they've got that efficiency and scale, then it's definitely going to be worth their while. But definitely, fantastic. Great advice. I think Sean says, interesting. I'll take a look into that. Nice tip. I don't know. He didn't know about the invoice showing SKUs.
That's only on, I think that's only on Merchant Fulfilled. I think on Amazon FBA, it doesn't do that. Yeah.
Sam says, appreciate your help on the book side, Luke. Your knowledge is second to none.
Cheers.
Yeah, this is really good. He says, does Luke have a YouTube channel? Do you have a YouTube channel, Luke?
No, I don't have a YouTube channel. This is a conversation I've had a lot with. I've had it with you before. I've had it with John Case. I've had it with Reese, who's been pestering me for about 2 or 3 years to get a YouTube channel going. And now Matt has been telling me I need to get a channel going. And it goes back to my previous job. We were in plain clothes and we were basically hiding from people all the time and trying not to be seen. So to then put yourself out there and say, here I am, it's a big mental shift. But I popped my cherry now, so we'll see what happens. Yeah, it'll come. It'll come, definitely.
Good for you. Yeah, good for you. That's you certainly provided loads and loads of quality content for us this evening. Excellent. Anyway, we've gone over the hour mark just purely on the quality of the content, which is excellent to see. Some good questions in the chat, some great points, and we've got some fantastic just not just for books though, but for across the range, some really good useful content. So I appreciate all that you've given us this evening, and that's pretty much all the questions sorted out there. So thanks again for joining us, Luke. It's been really good. I've enjoyed it anyway.
It's been a pleasure. Yeah, I've had a really good time. Yeah, it's been good, Andy. Thank you very much for having me on.
You're absolutely welcome back anytime you want, Luke. It's been really good. So with that said, we'll wrap it up this evening. Thank you to all our guys in the chat. Sam and Sean and Simon and Matt in his strange ways, and Chris and everyone else for coming along. It's always a pleasure. It's great to have you regulars here asking questions, interacting with us. It's a pleasure to hang out with you on a Monday evening. So thanks again to Luke, and thanks to everyone in the chat, and we will catch you next Monday at the same time. Take care, guys. See ya.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
See ya.